Welcome to the Health Club Owner Podcast. If you're looking to learn from the success and failures of fellow club owners on how to create dynamic culture, attract the right members, and max out your bottom line, you're in the right place.
This show is sponsored by Club Clean, my very own cleaning company, in a thinly veiled attempt to get into your wallets. So don't be a mooch and listen to the show for free. Give us a call at 219-301-2636. That's 219-301-2636. And beg me to give you a bid already. If you're too lazy to call, that's fine. Email us at support@clubcleanchicagoland.com. That's support@clubcleanchicagoland.com. And tell me you dig the show and that you're dying to give me money. All right, enough of that nonsense. Well, this is the Health Club Owner Podcast, show number 003. And I have here with me Matt Wright. Matt has an interesting background, being an athlete turned fitness pro, I'll call him. He recently hopped on with Active earlier this year in May as the head of community of education. He's a thought leader. I met him at the most recent club industry show here in Chicago, and he did an awesome job communicating some things there as a teacher. Of course, he didn't stop there. He decided he wanted to get a bachelor's and master's that are both fitness related, because rubbing in our faces his collegiate career wasn't enough. And now he's on the dark side, as they say, as a vendor with Active. But his regional director experience in fitness, and now looking through this other lens with Active, I think adds tremendous value to what you have to bring to the table, Matt. So without further ado, I'd love for you to just share a bit of your history with us and let the audience know a little bit more of who you are and what your experience has been in the fitness industry up to this point.
Before we get started, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate the opportunity, and really glad we got to connect at an event. Part of actually where I can definitely attribute where I'm at now in my career is to those types of events as far as networking. But like you said, I'm very fortunate to have a very vast experience in the fitness realm. So I did my undergraduate at Penn State, and I always tell this story because I find it to be funny, but I went to my counselor because I was undecided, and she said to me, well, what do you like? You have to declare a major. And I said, well, I like sports and women. So she said, you know what? You'd be perfect for kinesiology, and then you can minor in that women thing if you want. But I got to tell you, in my undergraduate work, I started working in the exercise psychology lab. And my experience in the ex-psych lab really made me take a different view on fitness, where it wasn't just this physical component. Typical of so many of us, I was like, I'm going to go train the professional athlete. I want to work with this, professional soccer team or this professional tennis player. But I realized that everything that we do centers really around behavior. And where I'm going with this is it led me to, once I finished my undergraduate degree, I got a master's in sport and exercise psychology with an emphasis in leadership and management. I was working full time, and I knew I wanted to get that under my belt as well. So when I finished up that master's, I got into being an adjunct professor. I taught anatomy and physiology as well as kinesiology at Rowan University here in South Jersey. And I also taught at a community college for a class called Exercise Technique and Prescription. I promise this long-winded story will come to an end. After that adjunct experience, I actually got an offer for a full ride for a PhD scholarship in kinesiology. So I went out your way at the University of Illinois. I did a year. And in that year, I found out two things. I have way more tattoos than most PhD students. And second, I am not somebody that can sit in a lab for 8 to 10 hours. So I ended up leaving my PhD program, which everybody thought I was crazy. But in all honesty, my passion, and I say this in all my presentations, is to educate and give inspiration through perspiration. And it's not about just sweat at the gym, but sweat at life. And that's what brings me here where I am today. You mentioned I was the regional director of fitness at Health Tracks, where I got to oversee 17 clubs of fitness directors and 200 plus personal trainers. And now I'm really excited to be on the Active Solutions team as their head of community and education, because I get to go to gyms and studios and our hotel partners, college university partners all around the globe to be able to educate so that we can enhance that member experience for everyone. So there's my short, long biography.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I got to ask, so when you're first getting into that program with University of Illinois, what changed between your previous experience in the lab and after entering your PhD that caused your perspective of that for you long term to change? Because obviously you had some lab time. It's not like you didn't know that that was going to be part of the whole deal. So what changed for you?
For me, the program that I was in didn't quite match the direction that I wanted to go in. So U of I is an R1 school, so very research based, and I like the applied side. I should have gone to more of a balanced school, which, not for nothing, I had such an incredible opportunity out there. My advisor was my biggest fan and taught me so much. But just when I finally got deep down in the trenches, and I'll be very honest, it went really hard from making a really strong income to giving that up and then being on a PhD student salary. Life changed completely. I didn't have the fun and luxuries of having a full-time job, teaching at 2 different schools, getting into some consulting back then. So long term, it was the right decision. But in all honesty, when I talk about life experiences, it was probably one of the best ones I could have ever had because I grew both personally and professionally the most in that year.
That's huge. I would say even for me, the last couple of years, I've been having to grow some in those personal and professional areas as well. What are some takeaways from that year for you, personally or professionally, that you think could add value to anyone who, from the outside looking into what you were going through, might not pick up right away?
I guess the best thing that I can speak to is personally, because when I went to U of I was on an island. I went there not knowing anyone. And it forced me, somebody who has a huge list of friends and network, to start all over again, where there was a lot of just nights in the apartment, cranking away till 12 and 2 o'clock in the morning doing work. And it made me realize that it was this fight that I kept fighting to be the best, or that I had to finish this PhD program. But I realized that I needed to make sure that I was happy before I could try to make other people happy. And that's what I learned in that experience, which was like, you know what? Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's selfless. Because when you're in that good state, you can help people farther. You can relate to them better, and you can share your experience with them so that long term, you're going to come out on top.
That's so true. And people miss that. They don't connect that dot that if you're healthier, if you're happier, you're actually going to be able to do what I think you're after even better in the first place.
I got so good at Call of Duty that I mean, my KD was probably close to like a 2.0. It was pretty great.
That's awesome.
But, the other part too is I was never a reader. I read because I had to study to take an exam. And I started picking up a lot of the self-improvement books, leadership books, time management books. And I started to find new hobbies, and it was pertaining to my personal development. That was really key. And that was personal. Professional ended up coming later on. I mean, professionally, I think I can say in that given year, it taught me a lot about connecting with people, being able to relate. We constantly talk in fitness about mirror and matching. So when you're working with people who are either, professors, or when I was working with undergraduate students or teaching to the students as a TA, it was just a great overall experience and time of learning for me.
As you're developing personally and you're starting to get into more books, you're changing the way you think and maybe the way you perceive certain things you had been working towards. What was a couple of the things, maybe there was one big thing that helped you bridge the gap between what you were developing personally, what you were learning in your programs there, to then led you to that regional director role? Because obviously all of it played into where you ended up and where you are now. What were some of the things that led to you seeing, finally being in that role where you're over 17 clubs? And then obviously you were doing something right, or else they wouldn't have continued to give you clubs to oversee. What were some of those things that were helping you connect those dots along the way?
My situation was very unique in the way that I was with Health Tracks prior to that PhD program. So when they reached out to me, it was more of a consulting role to help a club where they had an outsourced training department. And then I came in and really built it from scratch. And there was immediate success. And what was so great is we always say you don't get a second chance. Well, I had that second chance with this new mindset that I was going to be a leader. And that was the biggest difference from the 26-year-old I was prior to the PhD program to when I came back the 28-year-old, because I came back as a leader, I came back as an educator, and most importantly, as a raving fan. My mantra was always, I don't work for you, you work for me. So I took that entire year of my own personal and professional development and said, you know what, I'm going to put this into everything that I can when I start this club up. And my coworkers and people that I worked with will tease me that I always said I was the king of consistency. And I think that's what differentiates most people, which is I was always consistent, whether it was sending follow-up emails to every single new member that joined, or if somebody came in for a fitness evaluation, I would give them a phone call. I always did quarterly reviews. I made sure that I was giving daily, weekly, monthly pats on the back to my team and giving constant encouragement, which I didn't do before. I was definitely more of the selfish fitness director where I just wanted to hit my numbers. I just needed to make sure that I was hitting my personal training session so that I could get my paycheck. But the best thing that I did was focus on how can I build their paycheck? How can I build them to be up? And then the domino effect would happen, because then they would stay. I didn't get into a hiring crisis. And where I saw it the most wasn't so much about working for me, but they started working for each other. And I think that's the most important thing.
That's huge. Yeah, that's absolutely huge. If any of these super successful, super achiever individuals in the world that we know today, I mean, Steve Jobs, you're hearing about Jeff Bezos everywhere these days, certainly guys like Bill Gates, what sets them apart from everybody else is that they're consistent. They're not expecting, and I think problems that owners of clubs, directors of clubs may run into often is that they're expecting this event to happen where everything changes, nothing stays the same. They're waiting for this one big moment where it's a huge turnaround. But really what happens is you very slowly, day after day, with total consistency, turn the whole thing around. So you can look back a year, 2, 10 later and say, man, I actually did it. But it wasn't this one moment. It was a bunch of little moments stringed together that eventually caused the turnaround, so to speak.
One of the things that I teach, especially when I'm doing, whether it's consulting or when I'm working with different clubs, which is you have to regress to make progress, which is take your 30,000 feet view or look through that different lens and say, like, in my scenario, when I came back and I got that fresh start, it was like, all right, what do I need to do differently? And what I talk about in a lot of my presentations, which is rather than expecting greatness from the trainers or from the teams, is we had to provide the tools to help them to be great. And that's where we started these education workshops, and I developed our Health Tracks University program, because when we were able to then implement systems, implement operations that were also based on feedback from the trainers, from the front desk, the membership advisors, general managers, what was the buzz in the aquatic center, or what were parents saying in the kid zone? And it was like, let's do this. And it was a process. I mean, we took probably about 6 months to relaunch our onboarding program for the member and for our team members. And then we were able to see both immediate and long-term success with those launches.
Do you happen to know how that's still working for them now?
I actually still go back quarterly and provide the education workshop for them.
Beautiful.
Just the other day, one of the guys shot me a message that attended the workshop, the personal training workshop, and he said, I just closed 3 clients for the first time all in one day. And he said, I thank you so much. And I said, no, I said, I gave you the tools. Be proud of yourself. And, you know, the things that he referenced it was the communication strategies, because it's not about selling, it's about solving. And cliche or not, it's the truth. But when you can feel like that person is this big being in that room, and that you really take an interest in being able to provide them a path towards them reaching their fitness goals, it sells themselves, because they have to then say, you know what, this is a priority. This is something that I want to do. And at the end of the day, the thing that I teach the most is you have to make it fun. You have to let them test drive the car and enjoy what it's like when you provide that unique experience.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it sounds like when you were with them, a big part of your role was working with personal trainers and then developing resources, tools, systems around how to help them do their job better. Am I capturing that right?
Without a doubt, I worked for them. If it was people were frustrated that they were getting canceled within 24 hours, so they felt like they weren't getting. So I rewrote the contract and we made sure that instead of just signing the bottom of the contract, they had to initial each rule so that it was placed as an emphasis. We also changed the SOP for it that you had to highlight 3 things. So it was highlight the 24-hour cancellation policy, highlight how to cancel your contract, and then the expiration for the session credits. Those were the 3 things that I was hearing from our fitness directors and the personal trainers that they were running into. So I said, all right, how can we try to do it? What was solved? Were people not canceling within 24 hours? Yes. How that ended up being such a good solution for the trainers, which was they then knew ahead and they always had a plan in place, because what do most personal trainers do? They're like, okay, my day is train, fitness assessment, train. Well, what happens when one of those people cancel? Most personal trainers, and I hate to say this, trainers out there, which is they don't have a plan for what they're going to do so that they can turn that floor hour or that non-productive hour into income. So I didn't care if my trainers went on to something like Club Connect and did an education course, or, John came to me and said, hey, I'm actually going to follow up with the last 20 people I did evaluations for. They were able to quickly have those solutions where I didn't have to babysit them and say, all right, John, what are you going to do now? Because Mary ended up canceling and I don't want you just standing around or going on your cell phone in the break room.
That's huge. Yeah, you're helping them take advantage of even those moments that seem like they're totally lost. Other than the fact that you're awesome, what do you think was helping you the most and get these people producing at the level that they had the potential to produce all along, but maybe just didn't know how?
Definitely not my awesomeness. I'm as mediocre as they come. Where I took a different approach was I tried to think of every single person as me giving the one-on-one attention. When I learned about them, not both at the job, but outside of the job, what they liked, and I asked about their families, that helped a lot from a leadership standpoint because they respected me. Respect is hard to earn these days because of things like technology, because people are just quick, our attention spans aren't the same, and you don't spend many places as the amount of time as you do at work. So you have to go above and beyond to that person. So it was the constant coaching and education and direction. So one thing that I like to start to do was, instead of just shooting out emotionless emails, because I hate email and people don't read past 2 sentences anymore, but I would shoot a video to them and I would say, hey gang, really stoked for this week. Remember, it's a short week with the Thanksgiving holiday, but you know what? We're having our biggest blowout personal training special. And you know what? The person who ends up selling the most amount of sessions this week, I'm going to give you a $100 gift card to anywhere you like out of my pocket. And they would get excited. I mean, I even set up whiteboards with horse races, and every single trainer was a different horse. And I based it around their individual goal. And every morning we'd have our quick pump up meeting for 5 minutes and we would look at it. We would challenge, we would push each other. And it just always made work fun. I don't know if people that have worked for me or with us would ever say that it ever felt like work. It felt like that they were always just making a difference in people's lives.
That's cool. Do you feel like there's something you did, something specific, or was it just a collection of things that helped that become the perception of your team, where they really were making a difference in people's lives, or not just there to clock in and clock out, so to speak?
It's important that we focus with the member and making sure that everything that we're doing from a operation standpoint is solid. So if we didn't have all of the systems and operations in place, we wouldn't set ourselves up to be able to have that type of success with them, so that they always felt like they weren't just working to sell revenue. Because yeah, those targets are always going to sit over their heads, but I tried to get them to reframe and retrain their thinking to, it's not about the revenue so much you're driving, but when you look at those revenues, you're looking at the lives that you're impacting. So you might have sold a 24 session package at $1,464. Yes, I still know all the.
I was going to say, and 73 cents.
Yep. And well, with Connecticut tax at 63, no, they would look at it as it's like, you know what? It's not that I'm training with this person once or twice a week, but I'm their trainer for the duration of their program. So if they're once a week and they're with me for 6 months on a 24 session program, think of what I can do to help impact that person's life.
Yeah.
Not to mention the major life events that are going to occur in that person's life, whether it's marriages, funerals, weddings, you name it. These are all things that we have to connect with people for because it builds that relationship.
Yeah. So just like you were connecting with your team, so you became a real human and you weren't just this guy with an authority on a title level. You're also doing the same kind of concept with the people you're serving. And so you're not just this guy who's trying to take their money and make them sweat. You're really connecting with them at a human level, which I think even adds to their desire to wake up early or come in after work when they're tired. Because my friend John is there waiting for me. I don't want to let him down.
And another cool thing that, and I hope that other clubs are doing this, where every time somebody worked with a trainer, we always set them up with another trainer. So that if I ended up being sick, we wanted to make sure that we always had somebody because we didn't want to delay your progress. Yeah. Another great tool that we started using, which was when people would miss their session, they're like, oh, I'm going on a cruise for 2 weeks. And we'd say, all right, great. What are your exercise goals while you're away? If you're setting them, because we have to be realists. Some people might just say, you know what, it's not something that I want to do. Great. That's fine for you. We don't have to force them into it. But what we started doing was we'd have them take their MyZone belt and we could see what they were doing from an exercise standpoint and be like, hey, Mary, you did awesome. I saw that you, rather than waiting until 12 o'clock to get out of your pajamas, you got up and went for a walk and did 30 minutes. Congratulations. And then you can give that feedback because they want to work for you when they see that you're working for them.
Yeah, absolutely. They buy into it more for sure. So if you had a message or two that you could deliver to a club owner, a regional director, someone who's trying to make their club more profitable, more effective, really touch the lives of the people who are showing up there, what would be some things that you would be looking for if you were coming in as a consultant? And what do you notice most in situations like that, where you come in, you give a different perspective, a fresh set of eyes? What are the things that you see are the biggest holes most often?
First and foremost, I love for each key player to provide a SWOT analysis. So, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats. Whether it's me in a consulting role or my role with Active as the head of community and education, I'm not going to just come in here and tell you what I think you need to be doing because I'm this outside person. That's not how consulting works. I want to hear from you. What are you rock stars at? Who are your rock stars that are on your team? What are the pain points that you're currently seeing? And then be able to develop and devise a plan from that. What I feel the biggest holes that most clubs have brought to me is, first and foremost, is how do we better engage our members into our fee-for-service programming? How are you enticing them? How are you getting them excited? Bill McBride teaches this with membership sales. He uses it as your prospecting phone call is inviting people to the fitness party and it's at your gym. How are you getting them pumped up for your fitness party, which is your personal training, your partner training, your small group, your large group, whatever else it is? But the next step, which is how are you providing that carrot for them to want to come? How are you letting them taste it or test drive that car? Every time I give a presentation on giving away for free, I always use the Oprah Winfrey gift where she's saying, you get a car, everybody, whatever it is. And that's what it has to be. It's a perfect example. People put out a box that says free personal training session. That's no real call to action. Put a person there. Put an in-body machine there or the Staiku, whatever you have. Entice them to want to be able to attract to that conversation. Jump into the middle of a group fitness class and say, hey, everybody, my name is Matt. I'm one of the new personal trainers here. When you wrap up your class, I'm going to be outside. I'm offering free 30-minute sessions to each and every one of you. All you have to do is come on over and I'll get you scheduled for it. I just made a touch point with probably one place that I can get to more people than anywhere else in that entire facility, because most people are either going to find them at group fitness because you're in a bunch of people. You're not going to start yelling at people on the cardio And everybody that's in the weight room is going to have their headphones on and give you a really disgruntled look if you try to talk to them. The nature of the beast. But where are the key places? Front desk, you have to pass it twice. Group fitness. And then the third part that I tell everybody is you have to go to your members who are your mayors. Find your mayors, see what they like, see what they dislike, and then see what they think that you can do so that you can get other people involved. And you know what? When they feel as though they have ownership, right? Every single one of our members, they part own the clubs that they belong to.
It's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
It is, because our lights wouldn't be on. My front desk person wouldn't be able to be there and be able to make a living. I sure as heck wouldn't be able to be there in a regional director capacity or whatever else. So I look at every member as a key stakeholder. So if they come in and somebody says, hey, that machine looks dirty, well, guess what? I'm not upset with them. I thank them. I'm going to clean it. I'm unavailable to do it. I'll make sure that one of our clean team members does it, or it's somebody else. But collectively, we have to work together. So that's probably going back to where that gap is making sure that you're getting better engagement. The second part is where I believe is the strongest, which is what I referenced earlier, which is providing the tools for success. If we look at your Ritz Carltons, your Southwest, Chick-fil-A, Apple, these people are rock stars in both service and experience. How do they become so good at that? It's because they're educated and they're given the tools to be able to do everything that they do so that they can differentiate in the market. And it doesn't make you think twice when you want to go buy whatever this new iPhone costs at $1,000+ because you see great value because it connects with every single one of my phones or every piece of technology I have and makes life simple.
Yeah, I love it. I got to find out how you went from your regional director role, because it sounds like you were really kicking butt there, and you decided, all right, now's a good time, or how did Active even find you, and then how are they able to pull you out of what you were doing to where you are now as the head of communication and education?
I was actually presenting in Australia at Philex when it all sort of went down, which I worked with Active Solutions on a consulting project for a studio that I helped build out in Staten Island. When we shopped around for who we wanted to work with, Active's product just far and above ended up being our choice for what we wanted. We really wanted to create this ecosystem, create this wow. And it wasn't just about the hard goods that we were getting, like the bridge that we got or the accessories, but they helped us from a design standpoint.
Can you describe for us what Active does for folks who aren't familiar with them?
Of course. So there's three real pillars with Active. It's design, build, and program. So in the design space, we have a team of architects that can help you create these extravagant spaces. We think of things not just like what's the layout going to be, but what's your air quality? What's the flow? What's the lighting? If you're going to have a yoga room, let's look at that differently from what your spin room is going to be compared to what your group fitness room or your small group training is going to be. We try to look at it from a complete perspective from our design side. From a build side is we have our Gym Racks product, which is far and above just the best storing system out there, but also tool to be used for personal and small group training because it makes sure that it's clean because it's antimicrobial. You're not going to have to worry about germs. But it provides storage where you can always has a home and it doesn't look messy. People like that cleanliness and it's as durable as they can get. And we're very proud to say that it's US based as far as where it's built. And then from the program side, it's a lot of me where I'm coming in to help people, which is they want to work with us and they're going to spend $20,000 on this new remodel. The next thing that happens is they say, great, now what? I'm the ROI guy. I'm going to come in and say, John, let's look at what you're currently doing and develop a program. Do you feel like your team has the tools? So I go into the different clubs and provide these workshops and I give them, it's always the KSAs, right? The knowledge, the skills, and the abilities for them to be successful. But where I came to Active, which was so attractive for me, was the company's been around for 3 years. They're thinking about the total exercise experience that I'm just such a raving fan for. I think that's what helps people tied to behavior is it's not about just coming in and trying to go into a treadmill, but trying to have a creative space that really excites you to want to go there, but also is going to give you one of the most incredible workouts. So for me, I knew that when they said, we want you to go out there to all of our partners and start educating them so that you can enhance this experience. and I worked with my team to develop our functional training experience workshop, I was like, this is going to be the next best thing, because I know that I'm able to touch more trainers, which are going to be able to touch more members. And it's not just about the local level, but it's the community level, the national, and then the global level.
Yeah, I love that. And how did they start? Because it sounds like that's something that maybe progressed over time to be those three pillars that you now just described. Was it something that started with maybe one of those and then grew, or did they kind of come out the gate and say, these are the three things that we want to do, and just started working on it right away?
I had to give, hats off to our CEO, because he's a very forward thinker. He has a marketing background. He's also very, very well versed in design. And, we're actually even a big partner with Hilton. So I don't know if you've ever seen, but they built the 5 Feet to Fitness program, and it's actually a gym in your room.
I heard you talk about that at Club Industry. That was a pretty awesome idea.
And it has, one of our storage bays. It has our straps. It has a watt bike in there. But, he was able to figure out, which was, he wanted to provide a solution. The other arm that he also has is Advantage Fitness Products, which the Advantage Fitness Products side of his company, because it's all under the main company's realm is Fitness Ventures International, but that's our vertical market. So we're working with colleges, universities, multi-family living. Crazy enough, the place that I live at, we designed their gym, which I didn't know until I was on a tour here. So my gym down there is the active lab with all the different toys. But
Nice.
he knew that it took these 3 stages, because at the end of the day, very similar to me, he wanted to enhance the exercise experience in a clean, safe, and functional environment.
That's huge. And I mean, owning a cleaning business myself that serves fitness and health clubs, obviously that's something that's pretty important. So you naming that was almost like free promotion. I didn't pay him to say that, by the way.
You can Venmo me like $20.
You got it, man. You got it. I appreciate it.
Think about it, though, and it's a tangent from what we're discussing, and maybe you'll appreciate it, but I'll tell you, if places aren't clean, I don't want to go there. Before we usually interact with someone, we're usually already making our decision as to if we like the look and feel of a place.
Yeah.
I can tell you immediately when I go into a gym what it's going to be like as far as my experience. I can tell how the person's going to greet me, but I can just see how it's maintenance outside. That's important. But then once again, I mean, you can look, especially when I go through so many different gyms. I'll tell you, the gyms that do it very well are the times when I see that there's multiple people on the floor keeping it clean.
Absolutely. The smell, I mean, the maintenance. You could tell when someone's reinvesting into their club for the sake of their, like you said, kind of like silent partners. They're the ones that are helping keep the lights on and keep that place going. So I want to keep them happy.
I'd always tease, and I'm like if somebody would use like a cleaning wipe and then they wouldn't throw it away or like leave it, or like, I'd be like, do you leave that in your house? Not that I'd ever say it to them. Okay, maybe I would because of my personality, but I'd at least say it in a sarcastic way.
I love that. So what would you say are some of your biggest challenges you had to overcome or are currently facing right now, even with Active, in helping enforce some positive change? Because I know you faced some challenges, I'm sure, when you came on as a regional director and you start putting these programs together. People tend to resist change, and so that can be a challenge. And then even now with Active, you're going into these clubs, provided they invited you to come out, but you're giving them a perspective that maybe they haven't thought from. So it's going to require them to change maybe the way they think, maybe even some of the way they operate. And especially if you're rolling out some programming, that means they have some work to do. How are you overcoming that when you're wanting, and this is what's going to give the kind of results and yield the kind of change that they're even after themselves, but helping them buy into that?
I think as people, it's in our nature to immediately want to resist to change. It's our knee jerk, right? If you don't make it about how it's going to help everyone, that's the biggest disconnect, right? So I had said it before, which is when you go in, you have to make sure that you're hearing what their successes are. That's why that SWOT analysis is so important. But then getting them to see the bigger picture, which is what's the experience? How can we provide this all-encompassing effect to take you to that next distance? Or perhaps they've been bitten in the butt before, they've tried it and they weren't able to end up being successful. And it's like, I don't know if I want to lead into this again. So it's good to throw teasers out there, for multi-facility locations that I've helped with. We'll say, look, let's do a test site first. Or who can we make sure that if you don't want to just dive in, don't just go toe in. Let's get both your legs in first, see what it's going to end up, what the successes are going to be and what the learning points are. And then once again, it's regress back and then try to make progress. Regress back, try to make progress. At the end of the day, change is good. It's normal to be met with resistance, but you have to keep on moving, because I'll tell you, the industry, by the time this podcast is over, is probably going to have changed.
In some way or another, absolutely.
4 more iPhones just came out.
And there's like 6 other devices that they can now connect to. I want to move over to talking more about the personal development you touched on, and you started getting into some of these books and whatnot. What would you say is fitness related? The publication, the blog, the book, what do you tend to go towards? What do you find you're getting the most value out of?
I have an RSS feed set up. So specifically, I can make sure that everything that Club Industry puts out and URSA puts out, those are most important to me, because I'm constantly looking at what's the happenings in the club. I do spend time getting into, some of the journals. I'm still, as Mark Fisher calls himself, a nerdy nerd. So I like to stay up on the current literature as far as what's happening in the research space. But for the most part, I have to focus my time and efforts in what are the currents, what's happening right now. Like, one of the more recent happenings from that club put out was about Bay Clubs buying out Club Sport out on the West Coast. So that's a real big thing. That's important. I mean, even some of the things that you hear happenings of the unfortunate events that happen at clubs, because whether, there was an active shooter and we have to learn for prevention from this. This all goes into the key things that we're doing, and we have to make sure that our teams are aware.
Yeah, absolutely. And then from a business or personal development side, why don't you give me the top 2 books that you think help you even to today?
Man, I'll have to send a screenshot. My iBooks library is probably the most asked for thing outside of usually people want me to buy them a drink. But my first book, I'd have to say it was a big life changer for me. It's called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Not sure if you're familiar, but it's super self-improvement-y. If you shoot me your address, I'll send you a copy, I promise. So it'll be like the 30th copy that I've sent. So Jeff Olson owes me some of his royalties or something.
Right.
It taught me a penny saved is a penny earned. Or like I always teach, 10 minutes is better than no minutes. So if you're one of my clients, if I can get you to just do 10 minutes, that's it. But 10 minutes over time, I think, is 2.4 days if you do it in a year. I think that's the math. Somebody's going to go do it and then rip on me in the comments. But that helped me. For me, if I look up over to the left of my board, I have my student loans written out, because I still have $130,000 in student loans to pay off. I have to do baby steps. But just like they say, is how to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. So that's where that slight edge really gave me the difference. Second book, cliche, I know, but Start With Why, Simon Sinek. It's the holy grail of leadership books. If you don't understand that concept, then you're going to get lost in things, because we really have to think of that. It's why I always share, my why is education and the passion to give that inspiration. 2 other ones I'm going to throw out there just because I read so much, which is Grit by Angela Duckworth.
Yeah.
Love that book. And then Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Oh, I love Mindset. Yeah, the growth versus fixed mindset. That was huge for me in my personal development.
They say it over and over again, but you know what? I always try to say I get to, I have to, right? I mean, instead of I just had to go pick up my wife's dry cleaning. I get to go pick up my wife's dry cleaning because I'm fortunate to be blessed with a woman that I love so much, right?
Yeah.
The other place that I spend time on is podcasts. So Fitness Business Podcast, I was a guest on there after I got the URSA Rising Star Award. I ended up being one of their guests. So that was a really big one for me, because that built a really huge network. Chantal and JT have just done such an incredible job. But I love everything that Tim Ferriss puts out. And if I want to hear the language, then of course I'll listen to Gary Vee.
I hear you. Awesome stuff, man.
Well, your wife would not like Gary Vee for his cursing.
She probably would not. Yeah, I'll listen to that when she's not in the car. But he has awesome stuff to say, so I appreciate it. Well, I mean, I got to say, just awesome value today. We really appreciate all that you brought to the table, your experience, your perspective. Being on multiple sides of the table is super valuable as well. I definitely wish you the best in this newer venture, with Active. I know you're going to just kick butt. You going down to FIBO down in Florida this year?
FIBO is 2.5 weeks away. I'm giving a talk on Thursday called Reimagining the Member and Team Member Experience, which is a lot of what you and I just discussed. And then Saturday morning, I'm leading a Core Max workout. So that's always a fun toy because a lot of people haven't gotten a chance to experience it. It's one of my favorite metabolic tools. The versatility of it is just incredible. I love seeing people just be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how exhausted I am from doing a wood chop or an over lunge when you have water and air in a cylindrical tube or our ball, whatever it is. And then just some workshops before the end of the year down in North Carolina, and then really up and going come January. But I got to tell you, and for anybody listening, feel free to connect with me. Shoot me an email. I'm always available if people have questions. I'm a big Instagrammer, so my Instagram is @Wright_active, which is AKTIV. And be sure to follow Active Solutions to see everything that we've been putting out there. I got to tell you, like I said, our boss is very big forward thinker, and I think we're onto something pretty incredible. And John, this has been one of my most enjoyed podcasts. You've done an amazing job at really being able to give thought-provoking questions. I just appreciate this opportunity to share my message and hopefully to be able to help everybody else out there. So thank you.
I appreciate it. And you beat me to the punch. My next question was going to be, what's the best way to get a hold of you? But it looks like you already took care of that.
You can email me if you want to put it out. It's mwright, MWRIGHT, @activesolutions.com. Instagram, you can find me. LinkedIn, it's just Matt Wright. Facebook, I think it's Matthew Wright. I should probably have them all the same, but so be it. Whatever.
I hear you, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and your story with Health and Wealth Nation here. We appreciate you. There's no question about it. And of course, if you want any other details, any other goodness, just check out the show notes page at clubownerpodcast.com/episode 003. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Club owners, directors, managers, are you sick and tired of the headache of keeping your club clean? Perhaps it's the turnover. Maybe it's having to come behind the people you've hired to do the job for them. Whatever it might be, Club Clean would love to take that headache on for you. All you got to do is go to clubcleanchicagoland.com. That's clubcleanchicagoland.com to book a 20-minute phone consult. We'll ask you a few questions, get to the bottom of your frustration, and then solve it for you. Waste no more time. Go to clubcleanchicagoland.com.
Thank you so much for sticking with me. I trust you're at least a quarter of a step closer to a dynamic culture, the right members, and a maxed out bottom line. Are you a club owner or industry expert interested in being on the show? Visit us at clubownerpodcast.com/apply. That's clubownerpodcast.com/apply. Blessings on your health and wealth.